Hey, I hear you want to get into the Black Lotus Invitational Qualifier, the cEDH event going on at Zenergy Gamers on February 22nd. I'm trying to get in there too, but I don't know anything about the meta. So how we want to figure this out together? How do we take all the cards that we have from all the years that we've played, all these different formats from Legacy and Modern, Standard. There's even some Pioneer in this collection of cards I have. Plus, I've got these huge trade binders. I haven't looked at this one in 10 years. It's got nothing but rares and mythics in it. So maybe there might be a hidden gem in there that I can find that helps offset some of the cost of making the deck. And I got my regular trade binder that's got some goodies in here, like Ancient Copper Dragon. So how can we turn these cards, plus the 20 card proxy allowance, that gives us a lot of flexibility to get into this tournament and really do well, and it only has a $30 price point. There's cash prizes on the line. There's a Plateau on the line. That's a dual land. That is solid prizing. And I want to be in that final pot if possible. So follow me as we try to figure out what the meta is, try to figure out what we want to do as far as being part of that meta or going against that meta, and how to get the best value out of our 20 card proxies. Join me. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the little video clip I put together for you with the music there. And we are talking about the Black Lotus Invitational Qualifier that's going to be hosted by Zenergy Gamers this weekend, the 22nd. And we want to take a look at one of my go-to sites, just all-around great site to go to for anything that's top meta. And I'll be showing that to you here in just a moment. Most of you already know it. But the Black Lotus Invitational is a commander or a competitive EDH format, 99 singleton cards with a commander. It has very powerful combos. We're going to look at a few decks from one of the biggest tournaments that's out there, just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what kind of meta you'd be facing at your top, highest level play. And there's one event that had 129 players in it out of Georgia that really kind of captures a lot of what the meta is all about. With that said, let's take a quick look over at the go-to site of sites, and that is going to be the MTG Top 8. As you can see, it has multiple formats of Magic the Gathering that you can pull from. It is a great resource if you are trying to just come up with an idea for a deck to play. And our focus today is going to be in this category right here, the cEDH. Over here is where I want to draw your attention. These 3-star events, they usually pop at the top. Those are your major events, the ones that have the most people playing in them. And it looks like not that far away, Stone Mountain, so a stone's throw away, in Georgia, they are really putting on some big events. January, they had a $10,000 cEDH main event. And then they also had at the Charles Collectible Show in Stone Mountain, Georgia, in February, they had a single day 2K. I want to say that the 10K was probably 2 days because there were, as we look at it, 129 players. I think I had said 127 a little while ago, but 129 players. And we're going to take a look at the top half here of this meta. And then I want to kind of jump down to the number 9 through 16. There's one deck I want to pull out of that. So anyway, Magda, the Brazen Outlaw. This deck is pretty much a deck that tries to create a prison effect, and by that I mean lock your opponent out of being able, or lock your opponents out of being able to play their cards. It does that in a couple of different ways. One is your Magus of the Moons and your Blood Moon, to just basically take all of those specialty lands that are not basic and just turn them into mountains. And if your opponent doesn't have ways of dealing with enchantments with without having to tap colored resources to play the cards, you pretty much can lock a board right out. Now that's very difficult to do because there are a lot of cards that have, exile a card and destroy an artifact and an enchantment. So that's something to think about. Magus to the Moon gives you a little bit of a creature aspect to it. It can still apply pressure while it's attacking. It's not really your finisher, but this deck does turn just about every creature into a dwarf, and is going to use things like Ragavan to create treasure tokens, the Roaming Throne to double up any triggered abilities. Where is it here? Adaptive Automaton. I kind of want to play this deck just because I have a serialized version of that card and just want to kind of play it. It's cool. Then we have Bloodline Pretender. It's putting counters on it, and anything that has a counter on it, they're over here using Agatha's Soul Cauldron. A lot of these decks that have creatures, especially if they can put +1/+1 counters on them, are using Agatha's Soul Cauldron. I looked it up. It's about I think it was $40, $30 to $40. So it definitely has a pretty pricey tag on it. But the effect that it has to control a graveyard, to put counters on creatures, and then, or does it put it puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, and then it gives that creature all of the abilities of all the creatures that this artifact is exiled. Absolutely bonkers. You can see over here we've got the I'm going to mispronounce the crap out of this, the Mycosynthos, Mycosynthos, we're just going to call it the Lattice. I should know how to say this card by now. There's no shame in my game on that one. But this card turns everything into artifacts. And when you combine that with Karn, the Great Creator, and his static ability of activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated, it basically turns off all of their mana stones. It turns off all their lands. It turns everything off. And they basically have no ability to create mana anymore out of their regular, out of anything. It affects creatures too. So it's basically a prison deck that has the ability to swarm the field with creatures. You can see it has 27 creatures, more creatures than almost any other card type. When you see other spells, that includes enchantments as well as artifacts. So I would dare to say that even with the few, maybe there might be a couple more artifacts than creatures in here. It does run 29 lands. The most expensive one, this is a $5,000, $6,000 deck, but one card here, Mishra's Workshop, is over half of the price of this deck. So put that on the top 20 list of cards to put in your proxies. If you are fortunate enough to own one of these, congratulations, you are my new hero. However, I am not that guy, and I wish I still was. There was a day when I used to have some Mishra Workshops when I played the Mean Ugly deck, Mud, in Vintage. However, this deck is very much a deck that is trying to basically just put you in a lock you out as best they can, try to prohibit you from being able to break that lock, and in the middle of all that, putting things like Clown Car out to do silly little things, Trinisphere to make things more expensive. It's basically Mean Ugly deck, but in Commander EDH. The next one is going to be Ketis, Embercaller Familiar, and Malcolm the Keen-Eye Navigator. These two guys combo really well with each other, as the Embercaller Familiar, whenever your commander does damage to an opponent, it does that much damage to each other opponent. And then Malcolm the Keen-Eye Navigator is a pirate, and it says whenever one or more of your pirates that you control deal damage to your opponent, you create a treasure token for each one of those dealt, and that is going to be more mana. And that's the name of the game when it comes to competitive EDH, is big mana, big mana, big mana. As you notice, Ancient Tomb is going to be in every deck. The City of Traders, selectively, pretty much in every deck. It's a land, both those lands are lands that produce 2 resources, or 2 mana. So it's definitely where everybody's thinking. We want big mana. Plus, over here on the artifact side, you're going to see things like this deck doesn't go quite as deep in the Moxes. I believe that's because it's going to play Chalice of the Void on 0 and stop everybody from putting out their Moxes, so that they can, prevent, so they can lock it up with a Blood Moon or a Magus of the Moon, because Moxes is going to be your way around that, because they can produce colored mana for you. But things like Mana Vault, $64 card. Does it have? This one does not have it, but you'll see a lot of them will have. There it is, Grim Monolith, almost $400 card. Now this is a $7,000 deck. Just to give you an idea, this would not be the deck that I would try to pick up and create if I only had 20 proxies. I think I'd be more in the line of, something a little closer to $6,000. But it has a lot of money in its tutors. All right, Wheel of Fortune being a $300 card. And it's going to play the Thassa's Oracle combo. That's the other side of the meta. So you got your prison deck that Magda's kind of representing, which is really cool. I'm super stoked to see that this adaptive automaton made it, just because, like I said, I got the serialized version of it. So maybe it might crawl its way up a little bit, but nonetheless, you'll see that a lot of these cards are trying to do things like Thassa's Oracle, or create a storm count. This one here is using Brain Freeze. It's got Storm Mills 3. It has a lot of mana resources, a lot of draw power to it, and the ability to kind of, burn your opponents out of their decks. I don't see Thassa's Oracle in its creature base, so it's probably more just trying to get there by either beating you down with the additional resources that it gets, or trying to beat you with the Niv Mizzets. Both of those are very good. The Visionary, whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, you draw that many cards, so you're just filling your hand crazy up. And then the other Niv Mizzet, Perun, is can't be countered, flying. These are big dragons, and whenever you draw a card, Niv Mizzet deals 1 damage to any player. So you get those two together, and that is an infinite combo. Okay, because you draw a card, they take a point of damage. And whenever they take a point of damage, you draw a card. Whenever you draw a card, they take a point of damage, and you just beat the whole board. So you're really trying to pair these two up to win the game. And then, hey, look, it's got this guy. That's how good that guy is he still makes the deck even when he's not in the commander. So very strong list, and it's got a combo. This is like, let me drop these two guys into play if I can. If I get these guys on the field at the same time, this game's over. In addition to the fact that the 2 commanders are very cheap, so they're redeployable very easily. So let's kind of keep that in mind as you're looking at that. The combo is definitely a thing, and there's various ways of combining cards to make infinite combos and infinite loops that just blow everybody up. In this deck here, you're going to see the Thassa's Oracle. You're still going to see the Brain Freeze. Again, they're probably going to storm and Brain Freeze themselves out and then drop a Thassa's Oracle once they've milled their whole deck out and win the game immediately, unless you have a Force of Will or a Red Elemental Blast or something like that, Pyroblast, to get rid of the Thassa's Oracle. And then it's just going to be a flurry of counter spells to try to stop that. This should also have, Mental Misstep. That's its way of being able to deal with some of the Pyroblast and one cost counter spells. at no cost or just 1 life. And then, you know, it's got a lot of demonic tutors and that kind of stuff to get there. Interesting that it has demonic tutor. Okay, that makes sense right there. All right. And then this guy here, he just, you know, whenever you cast your first spell each turn, choose an opponent at random, and then this one deals that much damage equal to the converted mana cost of the spell that you cast. So, you know, your first spell, if you cast, you know, say you counter something of theirs, is it every turn whenever you cast your first spell each turn? So yeah, you can counter, you can use a force of will and then do 5 points of damage to someone with that guy out. So that's pretty cool. This one here, that's this Oracle again. You got your Brain Freeze in there again. This one here is basically using Grand Abolisher and some of those types of cards to prevent opponents from being able to play. You'll see Silence is also in there as well. Opponents can't play spells. So Silence and Grand Abolisher are cards you really want to get off the table as soon as you can. You do not want them sticking around, or you do not want Silence to resolve, because once it does, they basically just have free reign. And you'll also notice that they have Vampiric Tutor. They basically throw their whole hand away, then pop a Lion's Eye Diamond, and is it Diabolic Intent? Or there's one card that combos with it. It's like an instant. Can't find it right now. I think it's Grim Tutor or something like that I'm looking for. But that might not be in here. But things like Enlightened Tutor, that's an instant. You know, you cast it, in response to it, you cast Lion's Eye Diamond, or you sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond, discarding whatever's left in your hand, and then you get the Enlightened Tutored artifact or enchantment out of your deck. Ad Nauseam, another card that just, you know, you're trying to, you know, you cast that, it's an instant, you cast it in response to the Lion's Eye Diamond being used, and or you cast it and then in response to that you use the Lion's Eye Diamond, excuse me, and then you're able to just start pulling all the cards out of your deck. They cost super cheap, and you just start bringing everything out. And eventually, between the Esper Sentinels, the Grand Abolishers, I believe this one also, yep, the Magistrate, you just make it where your opponents can't do anything during your turn, and then you go off and Wheel of Fortune and get to a point where you can Thassa's Oracle yourself. So really awesome. Going in with the Thassa's Oracle, Ad Nauseam. This is heavy into the combo. This one is a creature-based deck using Kinrith, the Returned King. 5-color deck, so you get to play all the goodies. Again, you're going to see the Cauldron. In any deck that has a bunch of creatures in it, the Cauldron's coming out. Abrupt Decay, I've seen that in just about any deck that has black and green, just because it can't be countered. Court of Callings bring out creatures from your deck. The Calling Ritual, destroy each non-land permanent that's value 2 or less, and then add a green or a black for each permanent destroyed this way. Ugh, so good. Cyclonic Rift, kind of bounce everything and reset the board. You get the Dark Ritual to gain yourself some extra resources, extra mana. Demonic Consultation. This one here is another way of, says name a card to remove the top 6 cards. So basically, you're using that to try to find a card. I don't think this has Thassa's. Yeah, it does, right there. Okay, Demonic Consultation. You name a card that's not even in the deck, and then it's an instant. Then in response to that, you do something like Court of Calling. That's an instant, and you resolve the Court of Calling first, put out the Thassa, and then mill all your deck out, or vice versa. Mill your whole deck out with the Demonic Consultation, and then put out the Thassa's Oracle, and then your next draw step, you just win. which is that is your combo. Thassa's Oracle. I don't know why that card doesn't find its way onto a ban list, but hey, that's what it is. But there's a good little recap through those 4 or 5 decks there of what you're looking at as far as your meta for the most part. Now I'm going to jump down here to Kenna. Kenna is kind of the new kid on the block. This Kenna is a 2 cost, so very replayable. I believe it's a he. I could be wrong, but we'll go with they for now. It has the ability to do 2 things. One, it wants to show and tell on turn 1. It would love to show and tell into a Tide Spout Tyrant, just because after that, all of these Moxes, Chrome Mox, Mox Amber, Mox Diamond, Mox Opal, those all become 0 cost bounce spells. And so they can control your board, control the whole board, and just kind of bounce, 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 bounce. You cast something, they counter it with a swan song, and then they bounce the one of your land. It's just so good. It has the ability to Green Sun Zenith. It has Force of Vigor, which is one of the cards I was talking about, that even in the prison deck, Force of Vigor, they could pitch a green card and break out of the lock. So you got to have some kind of answers for Force of Vigor to stop that from happening. Cyclonic Rift to reset the board. Crop Rotation is a great way to thin out all those extra lands in your deck and get the really good ones out. Flusterstorm, Walking Ballista. This thing just makes so much resources from its leader, from Kenna. Because Kenna, every time you have a non-land permanent, tap for mana. So it has to tap for mana. That's why you're seeing things like the Talismans and the Springleaf Drum and the Signets in here, because they're going to tap for mana, and then they're going to add an additional mana. All right, so really, really strong. And on top of that, I believe, Land of War Elves, even these guys, the Fanehorn Elves, I think they do a point of damage to you or something like that. No, these aren't the ones that produce black. You got your duplicate, your artisans, Elvish Mystic, another tap, create, Devoted Druid, tap, create, and I think this one also had, or this one I was wondering why I didn't have the Visitor Remedies, in it. There might be some other combo that goes along with the Devoted Druid, but just the leader alone, allowing Devoted Druid to tap for a green mana, untap, tap for a green mana, and that's produced 4 green mana. That's really, really strong in a deck that's trying to get up to 7, 8, 9. It looks like 7 and 8 is about where it wants to be as far as the top of its curve. That's 8. The Hull Breaker is 7. Super stupid card. But yeah, all these things is giant. And if they can show and tell early, it's almost lights out. It's just very, very, very strong. So wanted to point that one out as well. Now, as far as cards that are expensive, most of the cards you're going to find, I'm going to go to the second place deck here, and I want to point out some of the ones that it has. Lion's Eye Diamond we talked about. That's a $600 card. Chrome Mox, not that bad. Mana Vault, $70 is kind of up there, so that might make it to the list. Lotus Petal, I don't think it's too bad. Mox Diamond, Mox Diamond. Woo! That you just put it on the top list. Put Mox Diamond, put Mana Vault. If you're going to play it, put the Grim Monolith. The One Ring, definitely put that up on the list. That's seen in a lot of the decks. It's, the One Ring's there. I thought I saw Grim Monolith in the top 4. There it is. Okay, Grim Monolith. $400 card. Put that on the list. It's really good, especially if you're going to use the any kind of copy target artifact. But your most expensive things are going to be in your land base. So if you're playing green, yeah, Guy's Cradle with creatures. It's an $1,100 card out of a $9,000 deck. Woo! But this has Badlands, Bayou, because the 5-color deck, it's got one of each of the important Savannas, Scalding Tarn, Taiga, Tropical Island, Tundra, Underground Sea, Volcanic Island. I think it has them all. It might have 8. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8, 9 out of the 10 dual lands. That's what's pushing the price up, right there. Volcanic Island, $879. Underground Sea, almost $1,000. Tropical Island, $600. Yeah, that's what's pushing your price up on this deck a lot. And then things like, the One Ring and so forth. I'm going to go up here because this one's got some good ones. It's got Ancient Tomb. It's got City of Traders, Cavern of Souls, Gemstone Caverns is creeping up to $70. Mishra's Workshop is over $3,000. And then it's just fetch lands. And they're not cheap, but they're what they are. Strip Mine you can get for $12. Wow, that's amazing. Here's one that I thought was really cool. Where is it? Where is it? There's one. This one here. Talon's Gate of Madra. For 4, you can put it into play at instant speed, and it phases out a creature. That's super cool. You can either save your own creature at instant speed, or knock their creature out of the way for a little while too. So really, really cool card. But this deck is pretty cool. Most of its creatures, though, are relatively cheap, except for the Roaming Throne and the Ragavan. Deflecting Swat. Ooh, now we got a card. Deflecting Swat. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its casting cost. You may choose new targets for target spell or ability. Yeah, that one is $60. I put that on the list. Delayed Blast Fireball, a little bit pricey. The Great Train Heist, it's $5. Jeskai's Will. If you control a commander and if you catch a spell, you may choose both. So you get to add red for each card in target opponent's hand. That can be disgusting for 2, 3. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. The both part looks really good. Lightning Bolt, we know that's super cheap. Pyroblast, not that bad. Red Elemental Blast, not that bad. Return the Favor, not bad at all. Cauldron, we talked about, is about $40. Blood Moon is going to sit there around 10. Chalice of the Void, a little pricey, not too bad. But it's probably one that can make the top 20 list for this deck. Clown Car and these things are a little silly. Dampening Sphere, God's Fair Status. Now we're going to get to the cards that are a little bit more expensive. I'm going to try to scoot this in a way to where we can see them. Grafdigger's Cage is going to be cheap. Karn's going to be cheap. Liquid Metal, Torque, Mana Vault. There's your $70 card. The Nexus basically creates little shapeshifters. This is the one that turns into copies of other creatures. Now we get into the more expensive cards. Mox Amber, $50. Diamond, $900. Opal, $150. Lattice is pretty cheap. The Portal of Phyrexia. Portal of Phyrexia is a battlefield. Each opponent sacrifices 3 creatures at the beginning of your upkeep. Yeah, that's one where you can bring back things. That makes sense. It costs 9. This thing's going big with mana. So you see the cards that I would pick out there in that deck. The next one, again, Ancient Tomb's not too bad. Send about $40. It's still a very good possible card. But you're going to see Cavern of Souls, $50. City of Traders, almost 450. Gemstone Caverns, $60-$70. Mana Confluence, $40. This one, $50. Untap a legendary. Then you get into your fetch lands. Those are going to usually run you right around $30. Ottawa, the Soaring City, $20. One of the best channel lands in the game. $35 here to go get a basic land. And then you'll see that this has Steam Vents, Volcanic Island, and that's basically it. Not the most expensive land base, but it does have some cards that are up there. Volcanic Island being huge. Put that on my top 20. After that, probably the Gemstone Cavern, the School of Water's Edge, Minamo, and then the City of Traders. And that would be my lands that I would definitely put in there. Now, we get over to some of the other cards. $20. Gilded Drake. Huge, crazy card. It can be replaced, but it's such a good card. The effect that it has, like, you give this to someone else when it comes into play, and you take their creature from them. So just such a great ability that Gilded Drake has. And I think it was only printed once, so that's why it sits at like $250. It's probably $300 when you really look at it. So you see some prices there in the spells for this deck versus the prison deck that were a little bit more. It was the lands. Mises Workshop being the biggest one. Ragavan, you know, anybody that plays Modern probably has 4 of those sitting around. None of those are crazy expensive. Oh, Brain Freeze. Brain Freeze is $179. I've been looking at this thing the whole time. This is an uncommon? Okay. Maybe this was a time when uncommons were, like, had 3 different tiers of uncommons or something. But, wow. That is $179. Commander players go. There's no way that card is that expensive without Commander players. But if you have Brain Freeze, you probably got Thassa's. But no, it's just, this is your Mizzet combo deck again. So Brain Freeze would definitely be on my top 20 deflecting SWAT, obviously. Fierce Guardianship, I think this is a commander card. Yeah, all these, if you control a commander, you get to do something for free. Cards are all up there a little bit. Final Fortune's not too bad. This one does not have a price to it, so that one could be in the list. Flusterstorm's pretty cheap. Force of Negation gets up a little bit there with $70. Force of Will's gotten really cheap. I may buy myself a play set of those. Gamble. Yeah, there's just not, after that, you know, you're looking at cards that are like in the $5, $6 range, up to maybe $15. Wheel of Fortune, whew, another $300. That one's up there pretty good. And then you're going to get into your Moxes again, where you're going to be rehashing some of the more expensive cards over here. This Leyline of Anticipation is pretty cool. I like that a lot. Or Leyline of Transformation, I should say. Lion's Eye Diamond's always expensive, $600. Mana Vault's always right around 70. Amber, 50. Diamonds, $900. 150. So yeah, you're just going back through those. Those look like your staples. You know, pretty much every deck is like Diamond, Amber, Vault, and then you've got like Ancient, City of Traders, and Gemstone Caverns, you know, that kind of thing. And that kind of repeats itself as we go. So that kind of gives you an idea of where you'd want to put your money as far as the or your proxies, as far as being able to get the most out of them. Again, Ancient Tombs is in the list here. Gaia's Cradle, whenever you're playing green, that's one to look for. Gemstone Caverns again. And then again, your Tropical Islands and your dual lands are where your really expensive stuff is. So as you're looking at these decks, that's what you're going to be looking at. Your Moxes, your Grim Monolith, your Mana Vault. That's pretty expensive there. Your the One Ring. Yep, it's in this one too. Always wanting to pop up, and then after that, you just kind of pick off the top of the list, and you should be able to get something that's somewhat affordable depending on what you have. And if you've played any kind of modern, like I said, modern or legacy, you probably got your fetch lands already. So that makes it very affordable there, because that knocks out like $20 per $30 per card of each one of those lands. And depending on which way you go, if you go 5 color, you're going to be a little bit more expensive because you got your dual lands in there, and more of your proxies are going to be used up proxying dual lands. If you go closer to 2 colors or monocolor, then your proxies are going to be more towards your Moxes and your artifacts and some of your big hitters and your spells. So that kind of wraps up things as far as I can tell for the meta. I am not the end-all be-all commander player. I'm hoping to actually sit down with a couple of those top brass players in the area here to do kind of like a little, like we did with the Star Wars Unlimited, a fireside chat kind of thing. But I wanted to get this information out to players so that they could, especially the newer players, could have a place to go, check out the meta, and then maybe be able to price out a deck for this weekend and be able to play and potentially get there. I mean, it's not unforeseeable that someone with 20 proxies in their deck and a calculator, so they don't break the bank, can get there. And it's not out of reach. I don't want anyone to think that this format is for just the elite. I spent all this money on these cards that I could buy like a second home player. With the way they set up this Black Lotus Invitational Qualifiers, it's really in the grasp of anyone who plays EDH, even at a casual level. You just have to realize that big mana combos, and as you see, most of these leaders are very inexpensive. They come out quick. And that combination of 3 things kind of summarize, in my opinion, as I look over this. I only showed this one event, but I looked at the other events before, and that kind of summarizes like where the meta is. Big mana, fast deploying or fast casting, or being able to put out your commanders fast, and then having either some type of combo with Thassa's Oracle or the Niv Mizzets, or using that big mana to do huge things to take over the board or blow up the board. Or in this case, you see down at the bottom there, it says Seaborn Muse right here. This one, just such a great card. Untap all permanents you control during each of your other players' untap phases. You just get to play whatever you want. Green Sun Zenith, I'll bring out a creature, untap all my stuff. Awesome. And you can do that in response to the... Well, no, you can't do that one. Where's the one? There's a... The finale? No, I thought there was one that was... I thought there was a instant speed, one of these. Mana Drain. Here's a card that, I can't believe that's only $44. But unbelievable amount of mana you get in your mana pool to start working with. Crop Rotation to, cheap card, but man, it thins out your deck. So anyway, with that said, this is On the Play Games, and whether it's day or night, have a good one out there. Goodbye, everybody.